Hey guys, welcome back. I wanted to try to make a relatively quick video just giving an update on what has been going on here and on my husband's condition. So if you saw my last video on July the 8th, my husband stepped out of a truck in Ohio and something happened and he was not really able to walk. Now I had this confusing someone, so he physically could walk, like his brain was sending the messages to his legs to walk, but it was extremely painful to the point that he couldn't make himself do it because he was in so much pain and his legs were spasming continually while his left leg spasmed constantly. So that was when we started the process of trying to figure out what was going on. It is now September 9th, so it has been over 2 months that we have been trying to get everything figured out, get him better, and hopefully get him back to work. So initially he thought, well, it's probably chiropractic. He's had issues where he's had to go get his hips adjusted before. He's a truck driver. He's in a seat for, 12 to 15 hours a day sometimes. And so he just thought it was something to do with that. So he went to the chiropractor. The first time he went, it really didn't change anything. The second time he went, he felt like there was progress. And in this time, he had gone to urgent care and they said, yeah, this is probably like sciatic pain or something. And so chiropractic, just keep doing chiropractic. So the third time he went, he felt like, well, if it helped the last time, then if I do this one more time, it's going to make everything better. And so the chiropractor was kind of pushing and pushing, and the chiropractor said, if it hurts too much, you need to tell me to stop. And my husband was like, no pain, no gain, just kind of let him go. And it did hurt. But after that appointment, his mobility got so much worse. So the day after that, he tried to go to work, could not get into a truck, could not walk to hook up his equipment, came home and went to the emergency room. It took him like 20 minutes to walk a car length trying to get across the parking lot. Finally got in there and they were like, I don't think it's sciatic. I think you have a pulled muscle. I recommend doing physical therapy. So he scheduled an appointment with his doctor and started physical therapy. They got that pushed through. And he went in to get the initial evaluation, and the doctor, the physical therapist, was like, you can't do anything weight bearing. We can't really do anything except try to loosen this up, because he could not move. Like at that point in the middle of July, he could not lay down. He couldn't make his hip move to lay down. He couldn't stand up. He couldn't go to the bathroom by himself. He couldn't shower by himself. He couldn't dress himself. So for him to lay down, I would have to kind of push him, and then I'd reach and lift his legs up and set them on the bed. He was just in excruciating pain all the time. And like I said, his legs were spasming. His leg was spasming. And so his thigh would, whenever it would spasm, would kind of go this way, and his calf would go the other way, and his knee was being kind of cranked in the middle. So we started aquatic therapy, and it didn't really seem to change a whole lot of anything. Trying to think what was the next step. His doctor really hasn't been very helpful, which is disappointing. She'll do referrals and stuff, and she's doing the paperwork as far as the stuff that he needs to allow him to get paid for his short-term disability. But she's not very helpful in diagnosing anything, which is frustrating. So he was doing physical therapy and the pain started spreading. So he was getting pain in his knee and it was swelling. And then after a couple days, he had this lump on his foot over the second and third toes. And it was when he had his shoe on, it was kind of manageable. But when he took his shoe off, his foot would be 3 to 4 inches thick. Within minutes, it would swell so bad. So we were now dealing with that in addition to whatever was going on with his hip, and trying to fight to get an MRI of his spine because we were still thinking this is probably a disc issue. He's got a bulging disc, herniated disc. Something is out in his back, because so many people were like, this sounds like sciatic pain. Looking back, I don't think it really did, because what I've heard is that sciatic pain kind of runs down your leg, beyond your knee, kind of towards your ankle, and this was not. It was intense pain concentrated in his hip butt area, like kind of in his butt cheek below his pelvic bone, like in the back. I don't know. Anyway, it wasn't numbness, tingling, anything like that. No fever, no swelling, no redness. He does have a lump on that side, on his left side. So he went to an orthopedic doctor, and he was hoping that they would give him a cortisone shot for his knee, that he could just continue to move, because his knee was hurting so bad he couldn't even work on his hip at all, work on getting the motion back in it. So we went to this orthopedic doctor, and we had seen him one other time, and the guy is just, he's not a good doctor. He's not a friendly person. He's not anybody you want to spend time with. So Dan went in, and the guy was like, kind of motioned to Dan's crutches, and he was like, yeah, I've been on crutches, and started to try to tell him the story. And the guy just totally wasn't listening, and reached over and grabbed his leg and just yanked. And Dan screamed, and the pain got so much worse. The guy goes, torn meniscus. We'll get an MRI. We still have not got that MRI, by the way. And walked out of the room, and my husband was trying to ask questions, and he didn't answer. And so we tried to ask the nurse questions. Should I continue physical therapy? How do we know this? What should I do? Is there restrictions? And she was just like, nah, I don't know. So he left there very discouraged, and that night I ended up taking him back to the emergency room. They couldn't really do anything for him. They won't do emergency MRIs or anything like that, which is what we were really thinking. If he could get a spinal MRI that would show an issue, we could have surgery done, or at least know what to do to get things under control. And they can't do any of that at the emergency room. So they told him, like, take 600 milligrams of ibuprofen and use lidocaine patches. The lidocaine patches actually did help a decent amount on his knee and his hip. So I guess that was the good thing in that. But the other thing is that doctor really did sit and listen to Dan. He couldn't do a lot for him, but he didn't dismiss him. So we went a week later back to another orthopedic doctor, and he was like, I don't think this is a torn meniscus, and I don't know exactly what's going on, but his knee was like, it was huge. It was so swollen. So they removed 50 cc's of fluid from his knee and gave him a cortisone shot. And praise the Lord, that has so far held out. He has not had knee pain come back. Then he went to urgent care for the issue with his foot. They told him it was cellulitis, gave him a decently strong antibiotic, but he also has a history of gout. And in the background of all of this, we're fighting with insurance, trying to get his gout medication to be covered, and it won't. They want to put him back on alpurinol, which causes flare-ups in him and doesn't work. So we knew his uric acid was high, gout could be an issue, so they treated him for gout and cellulitis at that appointment. And his foot swelling did go down, the pain went down while he was on that stuff. While he was on it, his hip also started to feel some better. Finally got the MRI, and we were able to get into a place that reads you the results. There's a radiologist in the building. He reads the scan, talks to you immediately. So he went in and had a spinal MRI done, went in to talk to the radiologist, and walked in, and the guy said, "You fell." And Dan said, "No, I didn't fall. I just stepped hard." And he kind of looked at him weird, and he was like, "Well, you can see your spine is fine. All the vertebrae are fine. There's no deterioration. There's no bulging, no herniation, nothing. Your spine's fine." But I guess either the pelvis is usually shown in this, or the tech saw something and decided to scan his pelvis as well. but there's a large white spot on his pelvis on the back side. I believe the bone's called the ilium. And so they said either suspected fracture or there's a possibility that it's a bone marrow issue that shows up in that. In my research, because, I can't let anything alone, it also says like an infection of the bone is a possibility for showing up bright white on an MRI. He said you need to get a CT scan. Okay, so we were trying to get a CT scan pushed through, asking his doctor, calling the insurance, and everybody's like, it just has to go through the channels. We just have to wait and see if it's going to be approved. And then he had a different appointment because over the last several years, his white blood cell count has been kind of creeping up, and it got to a new high, and his doctor was like, you need to see a hematologist. So we went to see a hematologist, and they didn't really have a ton of answers. They were like, this definitely could be a gout issue. It could be inflammation. It could be an infection. We don't really know. And by the way, why are you using crutches? So Dan told him the whole story, and he was like, oh, broken pelvis. Like, he didn't really believe him. So he went out and pulled the MRI, and he came in, he was like, it says you could have a broken pelvis. And we were like, yeah, we told you that. So he said, you need to have a CT scan, and you really should do it with contrast. And I'm going to try to get that pushed through as quickly as I can, and I want to get you to see a rheumatologist, but our insurance is fighting us on that one as well. So he sent us sent Dan, I just went with him, for a ton of blood work. There are so many tests, and I don't even know what most of them mean. This was like 3 weeks ago that he went and got all of this blood work done. Finally got a call that the CT was scheduled. So where we are at right now is we still don't know. We still don't know exactly what's going on. He did see an orthopedic after he saw the hematologist, after the MRI, and the guy was like, well, as long as you are improving, your condition's improving, we're going to assume that it was a break. He didn't do any x-rays, even though they have x-ray capabilities in the office, which I thought was a little bit weird. I was like, why would you not just do an x-ray just to be sure? But he didn't. He's like, we're just going to proceed as if it's broken, and that's basically just what you've been doing, resting, moving it as you're able, using crutches, then gently weaning off of them, then doing physical therapy. I spoke to a friend whose husband broke his pelvis earlier this year, and she was like, oh no, you shouldn't start physical therapy until you're sure it's healed. We don't even know for sure that it's broken, so we don't know that it's healed. But he went back to physical therapy, and it started making it worse. And his condition has gotten worse in the last week. He's probably lost the last 3 weeks worth of progress. So we're trying to get that figured out. He was on that antibiotic for the cellulitis or whatever. Sorry, I can see my arms reflecting in my glasses, and it's driving me crazy. So we don't know if there was an infection and that antibiotic started to kind of get it under control, but it wasn't a strong enough antibiotic or a long enough course. So we're still kind of waiting on that. But right now he is at his CT scan, and I'm not sure if he's going to wait and have the radiologist read it to him, but tomorrow we go back to the hematologist, and he's going to be able to tell us what all of the results of all of these tests mean, for better or worse. There's a lot of things that say that they're abnormal. I don't know how abnormal, or like, I know that some things can be high and it not be like a huge issue. How sensitive these tests are, I don't know anything. But we just said we can face whatever we need to face once we know what it is. So he's doing the scan today. Tomorrow is that appointment. And it is a little bit scary. They scanned it, or they did blood work for all kinds of things, cancer things, inflammation things, infection things, and just trying to figure out what is going on with his body. So initially, the second hip orthopedic guy that we saw said 8 to 12 weeks for a fractured pelvis to heal. And we are at week 9 today. or the end of the 9th week today. And it's not really a whole lot better. It's maybe 50% better than it was in the beginning. So he's supposed to go back to that guy on October 9th. He goes back to his doctor September 25th, and then the orthopedic guy on October 9th to get cleared to go back to work or to discuss the next steps. But it's really going to depend on what they find today and what we talk about tomorrow. But that's what's going on here. Today's Tuesday. On Thursday morning, we are leaving for vacation. We had scheduled it, we had paid for it, and the kids have been looking forward to it. And when Dan was getting better, we thought this will be good. And really, we do need to just step back. We've had so many appointments and confusion and stress, and we need to just be together as a family. But hopefully his pain level is down enough that he can enjoy it. Otherwise, we're just going to be sitting in the house and sitting at the beach, and that's okay too. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for being here, and I would appreciate any and all prayers you want to send our way as we navigate this and try to get some answers. So I will see you guys soon. Bye.